Welcome everyone to the Atmosphere of, a series where we kick back, relax, and immerse ourselves in the atmospheric worlds of video games. With the release of Silent Hill 2 Remake, I thought it would be the perfect time to take a look back at the origins of this legendary franchise. Today, we're diving into the game that started it all, Silent Hill for the PlayStation 1. This is the game that laid the groundwork for the series' signature blend of psychological horror, eerie ambience, and unsettling environments. Please consider liking and subscribing if you enjoy the video. I'm currently working on more videos like this, so without further ado, let's step into the fog and explore the atmosphere of Silent Hill. The game opens with us standing right in the middle of Silent Hill. Snowflakes fall gently from the sky while the thick, suffocating fog surrounds us, limiting our visibility to just a few feet. This fog wasn't just an aesthetic choice, it was a technical workaround, a clever solution to the limitations of the original PlayStation's hardware, which couldn't handle rendering the entire town at once. But what was initially meant to save memory ended up enhancing the experience, building a chilling atmosphere that makes it feel like we're alone in this ghostly, abandoned town. Every storefront and house is deserted, lending a haunting liminal quality to the place, as though we're stuck between reality and a nightmare. We stumble into a narrow alleyway. Suddenly, the sky darkens, and an eerie wail of sirens cuts through the silence. As we push forward, we come across a broken wheelchair and a hospital bed smeared with blood, both out of place in this dark alley. We follow the trail of blood, each step heavier as the music swells, growing louder and more foreboding. At the end of the alley, we're confronted with a horrific sight of a corpse hanging from a wired fence. And all of a sudden, some strange-looking creatures attack us. Helpless with no means of defense, we can do nothing but suffer as they overwhelm us. We awaken inside a small diner, disoriented. Was everything we just experienced a dream? As we explore the diner, we find a flashlight and a map, essential tools for what's to come. The camera shifts, and in a fleeting moment, we catch a glimpse of a strange figure moving just outside. What was that? We notice a radio on one of the tables. The moment we approach it, the tension spikes as we're suddenly ambushed by a winged creature. Thankfully, this time we're armed and can defend ourselves.
This is not a dream. What's happening to this place?
As we step outside, the town has transformed. The fog still hangs heavy, but now it's teeming with monsters lurking just out of sight. Our only saving grace is the radio, which crackles whenever one of the creatures are nearby. Eventually, we find our way into a house. There's something unsettling about seeing these everyday places rendered in the low-resolution graphics of the PS1 era. It's very uncanny. The house is bathed in a strange pinkish glow filtering through the windows, giving the scene a hauntingly beautiful quality. It's completely silent inside, the only sound being the echo of our own footsteps, amplifying the feeling of isolation. As we step outside the house, the sky abruptly turns pitch black, enveloping everything in darkness. As we cautiously move forward, creatures emerge from the shadows. The oppressive, dark sky heightens the sense of dread with every step. After navigating through the dark, eerie streets, we finally arrive at our first major location, Midwich Elementary School. The school is completely deserted, devoid of life, and developed in an unnerving silence. The only sound that breaks the stillness is the echo of our own footsteps. The hallways and rooms are pitch black, our flashlight the only thing cutting through the darkness. The ambient music here is haunting, an ethereal mix of industrial sounds like distant machinery grinding away somewhere just beyond reach. It doesn't take long before we realize that we're not alone. The hallways are patrolled by monsters. We even come across unsettling shadowy figures resembling children, small baby-like creatures that seem harmless yet fill the space with an eerie presence. Exploring deeper, we enter dim classrooms with rows of desks. Everything feels frozen in place, as if time itself has stopped. The liminal atmosphere is suffocating. In one particularly chilling moment, we enter a bathroom and hear the unmistakable sound of a child crying. Yet, there's no one in there. The empty room amplifies the unease as the disembodied cries echo off the walls. Later, we come across a room filled with lockers, and the silence is pierced by scratching sounds coming from one of them. We nervously open it, only to find a cat, which darts out of the room. But before we can feel any relief, a blood-curdling scream rings out. As we continue to explore, we eventually unlock a hidden passageway leading deeper underground. The environment shifts, and we're greeted by the distant wail of sirens echoing through the school's depths. We then finally emerge. We're back in what seems like the same area we came from, but something has changed. The world feels off, as though we've crossed into another, darker reality. The school's floors are now made of chain fences. The walls are now dilapidated and run down. The school feels like a prison now, and we've entered some kind of alternate dimension, where reality twists and decays before our eyes. The atmosphere is oppressive, a warped mirror of the world we just left. Remember that locker where we found the poor cat earlier? If we return, we'll hear the same unsettling noise coming from inside, but when we open it this time, there's no cat, just a gruesome scene of blood splattered everywhere. whatever was making that noise is gone. Or maybe our mind is just playing tricks on us. As we continue to descend deeper into this nightmare, we eventually encounter a creature, a massive, hulking monster named Splithead. True to its name, this monstrosity's head splits wide open, revealing a cavernous maw that could easily swallow us whole if we're not careful. To defeat it, we have to time our shots, firing into the exposed head while dodging its lunging attacks. One misstep and we could end up trapped inside that horrific jaw. After a tense battle, we managed to bring the creature down. As soon as it collapses, the familiar well of sirens fills the air once more, disorienting us. Everything spins, and before we know it, we're pulled back into consciousness, only to find ourselves seemingly returned to the regular version of the school. However, the atmosphere has changed. The once bleak and oppressive environment is now bathed in an eerie, hauntingly beautiful pinkish glow, and the distant toll of church bells echoes through the stillness, adding a sense of melancholy to the unsettling calm. We follow the sound of the church bells, guiding us to a small, eerie church in the heart of town. Inside, rows of church pews stretch out before us, and the walls are adorned with religious imagery, which offer little comfort in this twisted reality. The music here is a delicate blend of ethereal piano chords, creating kind of a contrast. It feels both calming and unsettling. After our brief but significant encounter inside the church, we head across town and arrive at the next major location, Alchemilla Hospital. The building seems deserted, with only the faint hum of dark ambient music lingering in the background, heightening the tension. Suddenly, the stillness is shattered by the sharp crack of a gunshot nearby. We stumble upon a man claiming to be a hospital worker. Looks like we're not the only ones trapped in this twisted reality. At first, the hospital's first floor appears almost serene. The windows bathe the area in a soft, early morning glow, giving the space an oddly peaceful atmosphere. There are no monsters in sight, and for a moment, it feels strangely calm. But the calm is shattered the moment we descend into the hospital's basement. Down here, it's pitch black, and we're forced to rely on our flashlight to navigate. Our radio crackles, alerting us to the presence of giant cockroach-like creatures skittering through the shadows. The music becomes even more distorted, with screeching tones clawing at our nerves, making every step through the basement feel unsettling. As we make our way up to the hospital floors via the elevator, the music shifts once again, taking on a more industrial tone. It's as if some unseen machinery is grinding away in the distance. All of a sudden, a new elevator button appears, and when we reach the highest floor, everything changes in an instant. just like in the school, we've been transported to a nightmarish version of the hospital. The walls and floors are no longer recognizable. They've decayed into a rusted, degraded, blood-stained surfaces, turning the sterile hospital into a vision of horror. As we explore this twisted version of reality, we encounter a door that's jammed, unable to be opened, but as we start to walk away, we hear the unmistakable sound of someone, or something, locking it from the other side. It's a very subtle, chilling moment. As we venture deeper into the hospital, the environment becomes even more decayed and nightmarish. The walls are corroded, covered in layers of rust. The ambient noise morphs into an industrial hum, almost like the sound of a washing machine in the background. Parts of the floor are now made of wired fencing, offering unsettling glimpses into the void below. We soon encounter a new type of enemy, one that doesn't resemble the creepy monsters we've seen so far. This one looks disturbingly human, a twisted version of a nurse, dressed in tattered nurse attire and wielding a pair of scissors. This enemy has become a staple in the Silent Hill series. When shot, the nurse emits disturbingly human-like sounds. As we continue exploring, we pass by rusted hospital beds and medical equipment. The windows are barred up, giving the place a suffocating prison-like feel. In one room, a large rusted window sits ominously at the far end. As we move to leave, we suddenly hear the unmistakable sound of glass cracking. Yet, there's no one in sight. In another room, we come across some tentacles sprouting from the walls, feasting on a pool of blood on the floor, a pretty disturbing image. As we near the end of the hospital, we encounter a woman who, at first glance, resembles the nurse monsters we've been battling. However, she's clearly not one of them. She speaks and behaves like a normal human, giving us a moment of sanity in this nightmarish world. Our conversation is brief, but before we can process much, the wailing of sirens fills the air once again. A sudden, sharp headache overtakes us, and everything goes black.
Harry? Harry, let me help you. Harry?
When we wake, we find ourselves back in the regular hospital, the twisted, rusted version seemingly gone. It leaves us questioning everything. Was it all just a nightmare? For now, at least, it seems like we've escaped that horrific reality. With a deep breath, we finally leave the hospital and make our way through town, heading to an antique shop. Inside, we find a mysterious hole in the wall, but before we can enter, Sybil, the cop we met earlier in the game, arrives. She brings unsettling news. All the roads out of town are blocked. Cars won't start, and every phone and radio is dead. We're trapped in Silent Hill with no way out. After talking for a bit, we go through the hole in the wall, which leads to a strange altar.
What's this? Some kind of altar.
Just as we attempt to leave, the chalice on the altar suddenly bursts into flames. Sybil goes in to check on us, but when she reaches the altar, we've vanished. The flame has been extinguished, leaving behind nothing but confusion.
Harry? Harry?
We wake once again, this time back in the nightmare version of the hospital. Lisa, the nurse we met earlier, is watching over us. She explains that before Silent Hill became a resort town, the people here were part of a cult that practiced dark rituals and occult magic. Could this be the cause of all the horrors plaguing the town?
Everybody followed some kind of queer religion. Weird occult stuff, black magic, that kind of thing.
The thought now lingers with us. Suddenly, we find ourselves thrust back into the nightmare version of the town. The lines between reality and this twisted dimension blur further, and we start to question whether any of this is real, or if we've already died and are trapped in some kind of purgatory. But despite the growing uncertainty, we push forward, determined to uncover the truth behind what's going on. As we step outside the antique shop, we see the entire town is swallowed by darkness. The streets, once solid, have transformed into wired fencing, stretching across a black abyss that seems to have no end. It's as if the very ground beneath us is unraveling, leaving only a void in its wake. With no other option, we press on and find ourselves inside a nearby rundown mall, its walls crumbling and floors unstable. While crossing a fragile platform inside the mall, the platform collapses beneath us, sending us plummeting into a sandy floor below. Before we can get our bearings, the ground begins to shift and a massive, worm-like creature named Twin Feeler erupts from the sand. It twists and barrels itself in the ground, attempting to ambush us at every turn. We're forced to stay on the move, dodging its attacks while timing our shots. After enough well-placed hits, the creature retreats, seemingly defeated, leaving behind a new exit for us. We emerge back into the streets of Silent Hill, and after a while end up atop a building, with a new threat waiting for us. A giant winged creature, Float Stinger, descends from the pitch black sky. This monstrous moth-like being is the evolved form of the worm we just fought, and it's even more menacing in its airborne form. The sky remains a thick, oppressive black as we engage in another battle. After a series of precise shots, we finally bring it down. As the creature falls, the familiar blare of sirens pierces the air, warping reality once again. In an instant, we're ripped from the nightmarish version of the town and thrust back into the regular, fog-covered Silent Hill. But with every shift, it becomes harder to distinguish where the real nightmare begins, or if we ever truly left it. We soon find ourselves descending into the town's sewers, an oppressive, claustrophobic maze hidden beneath Silent Hill. Down here, there are no lights to guide us, so we're entirely dependent on the dim, shaky beam of our flashlight. As we navigate the winding paths, the narrow tunnels seem to close in around us. We encounter weird, lizard-like creatures lurking in the shadows. Their sudden appearance keeps us on edge. even more unsettling are the enemies that strike from above, silently waiting to drop from the ceiling and ambush us. The sewers feel alive. Dank walls are streaked with grime and blood, a constant reminder of the horrors that dwell here. The only sounds that break the suffocating silence are the steady drip of water echoing off the walls and the rhythmic thud of our footsteps. After what feels like an eternity of wandering through these labyrinth tunnels, we finally emerge, the oppressive atmosphere of the sewers left behind. As we step out, we find ourselves in the resort area of Silent Hill, a stark contrast to the subterranean nightmare we just escaped. But the town still holds its own sense of unease. We eventually enter a hotel room, and again, there's something unsettling about seeing such mundane, everyday space through the grainy lens of a PS1 era graphics. The low-resolution textures and blocky designs make these once familiar areas feel alien, amplifying the eeriness. As we continue exploring the town, the sirens begin to blare out again, but this time something is different. Instead of the usual shift from reality to nightmare, the world around us begins to decay and distort in real time, as if the nightmare is bleeding into reality. It's a disturbing gradual transformation, and we're caught right in the middle of it. Pushing forward through the twisted streets, we come face to face with the creepy-looking creature that moves with frightening speed. It easily outruns us, leaping at us with a savage force. So we have to be on high alert to avoid being overpowered. Eventually, we find ourselves at the town's abandoned theme park, where we're reunited with Sybil, our cop friend. But something is terribly wrong. She's no longer herself. Under the influence of some malevolent force, she turns on us and attacks. At this critical moment, the game gives us a choice. We can either kill Sybil, leading to a brutal, unsettling scene, or we can save her using a special item hidden earlier in the game. Naturally, I choose to save her. Watching her come back to her senses is a relief, but it doesn't ease the tension of what's to come.
Sybil! Wake up! Snap out of it! Sybil!
Harry, what happened?
Shh, don't talk. I'll take care of you.
After a brief cutscene, we find ourselves transported once again to the hospital, where Nurse Lisa awaits. Our conversation is short, tense, and just as she leaves the room, we follow, only to find the hospital has transformed yet again. The space is now a chaotic patchwork of locations. Doors that once led to sterile hospital rooms now open to bizarre, unrelated places. One door leads us back to the antique shop we visited earlier. While another brings us into a classroom from the school we explored at the beginning of the game. It's surreal, unsettling, and disorienting, as if reality is fracturing around us. After searching through the twisted version of the hospital, we finally find Lisa again. It's here that we uncover the devastating truth. Lisa has been dead all along. The version of her we've been interacting with is either a ghost or some kind of manifestation, unaware of her own death until this moment. The realization hits both her and us at the same time, and the cutscene that plays is one of the most chilling moments in the game.
Help me. Save me from them. Please. Harry?
Haunting, unsettling, and profoundly tragic.
Lisa?
After spending what feels like an eternity inside the hospital, we finally step back out into town. The air feels heavy, as if something ominous is looming just around the corner. Following an important story cutscene, we come face to face with the final boss of the game, the Incubus. The design of this nightmarish creature seems heavily inspired by the figure of Baphomet, often depicted as a satanic symbol, making the Incubus a fitting embodiment of dark, godlike power. The Incubus looms above, a towering figure that attacks with bolts of crackling red lightning. These lightning strikes are no joke. If we don't stay alert and dodge them in time, they can easily kill us in one hit. Loud, metallic banging noises echo through the air, accompanied by distorted, high-pitched screams that send shivers down your spine. After an exhausting exchange of dodging and firing, the Incubus finally falls. Yet, there's no time to celebrate. The ground starts to quake violently, debris crashes down around us, and the entire area feels like it's about to collapse. In the midst of the chaos, we discover that the Incubus left behind a baby wrapped in a blanket, lying in its place. Amid the destruction, the music shifts into something calm and ambient, almost peaceful sounding. With no time to waste, we rush out of the collapsing area, baby in hand, escaping the nightmare we've just endured. The scene then cuts to a moment where we find ourselves back in the regular fog-covered version of Silent Hill. It's as if we finally escaped the twisted, nightmarish world that has been haunting us. Some kick-ass music starts playing, leading us to the game's credits. It's a cathartic end to an unforgettable journey. And that wraps up our video. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you sticking around. I hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the eerie, unsettling atmosphere of Silent Hill, and that it gave you a new appreciation for what makes the game such a classic. Now, I'm off to dive into the Silent Hill 2 remake and see how it measures up to the original's haunting vibes. I'll catch you all in the next video. See ya!